Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Chris, one of the race organisers, and with me tonight we've got Dave, who's our resident coach and training run and pace coordinator. We also have Amanda Spielberg behind the camera, so thank you, Amanda, and thanks, Dave, for helping us tonight.
You're welcome.
What we're trying to do today, this evening, is give you a feel about where you are, where you should be at the moment, and how to achieve your goals. So certainly hit us with any questions you've got. We've had quite a few already, so thanks for those of you who've already submitted your questions. We'll be answering those as we go along, and also any new ones, we'll try and fit those in as well. So it'd be really good if you could let us know that you're actually with us and listening or watching right now. And it'd be great if you could post a like, say hi, or even better, put a question up for us, and then we know you're actually with us this evening. As I said before, I'm Chris, and my co-host here, Dave. Dave's a qualified running coach and has been with us right since the very start of the Chester Marathon. So we've worked together and known each other for even longer than that. And more importantly, in terms of what we're talking about tonight, both Dave and I have run between 20 and 25 marathons each. So we've had some good races, we've had some so-so races, and we've also had a few shockers. So we've got plenty of experience, so we'll hopefully help in answer your questions tonight. Yesterday was 8 weeks to go to the race, and we're really getting into the heavy training period now. For the next 5 weeks, you'll be going through the longest runs and the heaviest training for the whole programme. And you'll be building up some accumulated tiredness within that. So don't forget that when your training programme shows a recovery week, that will actually help you recover. But don't worry even after that if you're still feeling tired, because in the last 3 weeks, or depending on which program you're following, 2 weeks, you'll be gradually reducing the intensity and the distance of your running to make sure that you are fresh as a daisy on race day, October the 6th. So keep that in mind on your runs when you're feeling tired as well. In terms of where you should be right now, those of you training for the marathon should be long runs between 15 to 17 miles, and that's hopefully where you are. And if that's where you are now, you're in a good place and everything's on track for race day. For those of you training for the marathon, round about 11 to 12 miles at the moment is spot on as well. We've still got those 8 weeks to go to build some more mileage. Dave's going to do a little introduction in a minute, and but one of the key things we're going to talk about today, in the title we advertised in advance, was how to achieve your goals. And if you take one thing away from today, the key thing is to make sure your goals are achievable. It's really, really important, and keep that in mind when we're going through your running and the rest of the seminar today. But for now, I'll hand you over to Dave, who will talk a little bit more from the coaching front.
Right, okay, I'm Dave, and this is all about marathon training. Whichever way you cut it, a marathon is a long, long way. Try clocking 26.2 miles in a car. No matter how fast you're going, it seems to take forever. And now you're thinking of tackling the distance on foot, running it. It's quite a challenge. If you don't respect the distance, it will chew you up and spit you out. Be warned. So let's get started. If you're looking for guidance about how to achieve your goals in the journey, this is the place to find it. But please let me make some assumptions. Firstly, I'm going to assume that you are a marathon novice. You're tackling the 26.2 distance for the first time. Don't worry if you've done 1 or 2 marathons already. There should be something in this for you to take away. The other assumption is that you are stepping up from a half marathon, so you are pretty well used to operating in a structured, consistent training regime, hopefully to a schedule. In fact, structure and consistency are your 2 best friends, and they'll help you achieve your goal. By structure, I mean you have been running consistently for at least 3 times a week to a plan, preferably on alternate days, and we'll cover the value of rest and recovery later on, and that you are used to building your mileage up gradually. That will take you to race day. Your weekend run will now be growing to take you out for longer distances, whilst your runs in the week will build initially and then stabilise. I recommend that one of these runs in the week is your race pace run. This will peak at no more than 12 miles, I would suggest. Now, here is the technical bit. I often get asked when I'm out on our long training runs with the monthly training runs about how a person would figure out what their target should be for their first marathon. 9 times out of 10, I'll hear the runner say, I just want to finish. But to me, that's far too nebulous. That's like saying, I want to drive to Kathmandu, but I don't know the way, I don't know how many miles it is, and I don't know how much fuel I'll need. So, to carry the driving metaphor even further, I regard a 10k as a speed event, a half marathon as a speed endurance event, and the marathon as a fuel economy run, where you go slow and steady to maximise what you've got in the tank. If you whiz off at the start, you'll be in bits at 20. Trust me, I know. The last time I did a marathon was in 2011, Chester, and that's what happened to me. There's unfinished business there, Chris. Okay, so in a marathon, a steady, consistent pace is key. And for your first marathon, choosing a realistic goal is crucial. A goal that is within your capabilities. So that you come across the line thinking, 1, hey, I did it. Woohoo, that's fantastic. 2, I feel I could do even better next time. And so your marathon career gets off to a good start. But going out at a pace that is beyond your capabilities is likely to give you a very bad day at the office and an overwhelming desire to burn your running shoes. The good news is that there is a magic formula to calculate your target race pace based on your most recent half marathon. It is half marathon time, double it at half an hour. There are people who might argue about the add-on time bit, but this worked for me all those years ago when I ran my first marathon, so that's what I recommend. So using me as an example, in the year leading up to my first marathon, I ran 1:30 in the half marathon. Double that to 3 hours and add 30 minutes, 3:30. Subsequently, I ran the first Manchester Piccadilly Marathon in 3:28, in decent shape, except for the severe low lip trembling as I came over the line. So the magic formula will at least give you a rough idea of what to work with initially as you train in a progressive way up until race day. The target time will also give you the pace for race day, and using the previous example, a 3:30 marathon equates to 8-minute miling for the 26.2 miles. Simple. The big thing to remember here is that your race pace, this is the one you will practice with each week. Time and time again until it's automatic. It will be your default setting. It's not the pace of your long runs. I recommend you run your long runs at a long, slow distance pace of race pace plus 30 seconds to a minute. And so my LSD pace would have been 8:30 to 9 minutes per mile.
Sorry, Dave, for interrupting there. LSD is your long, slow distance, not anything else that you might be thinking of there.
How do you know how I got through the race?
Performance enhancing.
Yeah, thank you. It's important to train at this slower, more relaxed pace, especially when the mileage ramps up to avoid over fatigue. Put simply, you'll burn yourself out and or get injured. Finally, I'm going to say something brief but very important about mindset. Ready? The moment you hit the road on your first marathon training run, and you'll all have done that already, however long the session is, you are a marathon runner. In your legs, in your heart, and especially your head. A marathon runner. Over to you, Chris.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for that. And some wise words from Dave. Dave is our Methuselah of marathon running. Ever youthful. You wouldn't think he was 85 yesterday, would you?
You're always doing that to me, Chris. I'll get you after.
No, but Dave's a prime example of what running can do to keep you looking young and healthy. So thanks, Dave. We'll move on to the section next where we come to your questions. And first one, I'm going to ask Dave this one, and this is from Stuart. It's a question that was raised on Facebook. And Stuart says, I signed up during the training phase of a half marathon, which is 4 weeks before. My mileage is 25 to 30 miles a week, and I've just managed a 14-mile long run. Any advice on stepping up the miles and what to do in between the races? Stuart's aiming for a sub 2 hour half and a 4:30 marathon, and his recent 10k was 52 minutes. So, what do you think, Dave?
Yeah, well, I think it's important now to concentrate on the marathon and use the half marathon as a stepping stone to that. And just grab one of our training schedules. The improver one will probably suit Stuart the best, and just get stuck into it. Given the mileage that you've done already, Stuart, in the long one, you're not a million miles away from the current sort of level anyway, so it's just a matter of scampering a bit to catch up, and I wish you well.
Cheers for that. Thanks, Dave. And as we said before, Stuart, you've got 8 weeks to go. And it's really important that you get 3 to 4 real quality runs a week, and that will really help you take your mileage up and have a successful race on October the 6th. Our next question is from Meg, and Meg says, I'm a slower runner and working hard to reach the cut-off pace required. Now, our cut-off is 6 hours, and that's pro rata along the course. And Meg says, what paces do I need to hit for each stage of the cut-off checkpoints? Well, Meg, 6 hours, it's a decent time. I think you need to be running at least part of the time for that, good chunks of the race to do that, achieve that. And you really need to be averaging 13.5-minute miling. If you can do that on average, then you will be okay. You will come in within the cut-off and you will be a finisher with us, and it'd be great to see you on the finish line. Meg also asked what brands of drinks and electrolytes will be available at the water stations, and does she need to practice with them? Well, we've got 9 water stations on the course, and every single one of those will have Sports Cap Radnor Spring water at them. And then after drink station number 1, the first drink station, you will either have High Five Gel Aqua or a Lucozade Sport Orange drink. So it's one of the two as well as water. So there's really no need for you to carry lots of excess water and gels around with you. All we would advise is that you train with the High Five Gel Aqua and the Lucozade Sport Orange in advance to make sure you're okay with that and your stomach can cope with it. And I think in terms of taking on water and electrolytes, it's take on small amounts but frequently, making sure that you're filling up the tanks before you run out of energy, and also you're keeping adequately hydrated as we go along. Our next question is from Andrea Hopwood, and Andrea asks, what's the best way to train your mind in preparation for a marathon? That's a good one, that, Amanda, and it always gets people worried. Amanda then says, Chester will be my first marathon, and she guarantees that no amount of running will make her any less nervous on the day. And nerves will certainly affect her appetite on the day, so any tips for that will also help. So Dave, do you want to start on that one for us?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Chris. Well, Andrea, the thing is, nerves are fine. Nerves are actually really good. If you weren't nervous before the start of the race, there'd be something wrong with you. So take heart from that. So you've done all the training. So as I said before, you are a marathon runner. So take heart from it. If you've done all the training, you've done it properly, then the race will take care of itself and enjoy the day. Talking about eating, I suggest that you eat 2 to 3 hours before the event. Nothing that you haven't eaten before and that your stomach can happily cope with. So that could be something like porridge. Chris and I were comparing notes about this earlier. He's a porridge and honey guy, and I do much the same kind of thing. So I wouldn't recommend a full English breakfast with extra sausages. Okay, so but nothing new. Chris.
Thanks, Dave. And Meg's actually also online watching us now, so welcome, Meg. And we've just seen your question: will there be Lucozade Sport left for a 6-hour person? Yes, there certainly will. So don't worry about that. We'll have plenty for you. And just a few bits, thoughts of mine on that one for you, Meg. Sorry, Andrea, we're talking about. Andrea, your long runs are great preparation for training your mind for a marathon. They really get you in the right mindset. And some of your long runs will be really tough, and there'll be parts of the marathon that are going to be tough. So your long training runs are going to really help you with that. And also, if you're running any other races in the build-up, that will get you used to running in a race situation with other people around and getting used to pre-race nerves. And I think finally, in terms of making you less nervous on the race day, I think the thing that worked for me is to leave plenty of time, more time than you think, and that will actually make sure you're calm, you can do stuff without being hurried, and hopefully get to the race in plenty of time, and queue for the toilets 2 or 3 times, which always works.
That's
it's my
just
top
what
tip
I
for
was going
race
to
day.
say, Chris.
Yeah. I think one of the best tips anyone ever gave me was first thing you do when you get to the race start is queue for the toilets. As soon as you come out, you go to the back of the queue and queue again. So again, keep that in mind, it will really help you. And Dave talked again about breakfast. Have your breakfast at least 2, preferably 2.5 to 3 hours before the race, and nothing new. Whatever you intend to do on race day, try it before your long runs, your long weekend runs as well. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question, Andrea. So we'll move on to our next question. This is from Miranda. And Miranda talks about tips on pacing. And you've come back to us and saying, Miranda, you're aiming to do 4:20. Now that doesn't quite fit in with one of our pace groups. Our pace groups are every 15 minutes. So the ones around there are 4:15 or 4:30. And they're really, our pace groups are every 15 minutes between 3 hours and 5.5 hours.
Yes.
And ideally, if you can fit in with that, just join the pace group and let the pacer take all the pressure of getting the pacing right for you. However, Miranda's going for 4:20. So it's really important that you don't try and aim for 4:15, which might be a little bit fast for you. Stick with your own plan. And certainly key things in terms of pacing is hopefully if you look at following a training plan, maybe a Thursday run, you'll be doing a run at your target race pace. Remember that race pace and be really diligent about that. Don't start too fast, and you'll find even though if you're in the 4:15 to 4:30 race area, plenty of people will be feeling really fresh, fantastic on race day and go zooming past you. Let them go. Stick to your own plan, and I assure you, you'll be picking them off once you go past halfway. They'll be slowing down and you'll be staying constant and you'll be overtaking, and that is a massive, massive confidence boost for you. And the other thing about our course is the second half is ever so slightly more undulating than the first half. So if you're just a second or 2 per mile faster on the first half, not much, please, not much, that will allow you a little bit of extra time in the second half to actually cope when it becomes a little bit more undulating. So hopefully, Miranda, that will answer your question. And then we'll now move on to our next question, which is on Twitter from Dan. And Dan says, sorry for such a schoolboy question. It's not a schoolboy question, it's a really valid one, Dan. And Dan says, Chester will be my first marathon. Well, thanks for choosing us, Dan. We really appreciate that. Dan's hoping for a 4:15 to 4.5 hour finish time. And the Runner's World plan that he follows gives him a longest run of 3 hours 15. And Dan is asking, is that long enough? Because it doesn't feel like it to him. He feels he should run longer. So what do you think on that, Dave?
Right, well, we fed your data into our supercomputer, which figured out that
Just winding it up here. Yeah.
the 3 hours 15 minutes is about 18 miles. We both consider that's just a little bit light. It needs to go to about 20. But the key still is that you build gradually, and that it's just, say 1 mile per week to get up to your target. And key also is that you get a really good rest day after the long runs. Chris?
Okay, that's great, and I think thanks for that, Dave. And from my point of view, Dan, I think it's really, as Dave said, reiterating, you're building up your mileage gradually and your time on your feet gradually. Dave says at 20 miles, ideally if you can get to 20 miles, it's great. It's a confidence boost. But if you are somebody who's prone to injury, then be cautious, I think. And if your plan says go to 3.25 hours, then do that. But if you're pretty injury free and you want to build your own confidence, mental confidence, I think hitting 20 is quite a big thing for most people. So thanks for that. And the other thing, Dan, and everyone else listening, is make sure you rest after a long run. You have that rest day. It's absolutely crucial. So our next question, this has just come in live, and this is from David. And David said, is that large wall still on the route around the 22 mile stage that I keep hitting? Well, Dave, I can assure you that that large wall is actually a movable feast, and depending on who you are and how your training's gone and how your race has gone, it can creep up on you at any time. But it's certainly in terms, if you're looking to avoid that wall, I think now we've got 8 weeks to go. Really, really important to get your long runs in. These will help build up your endurance. It's also really, really important to make sure that your nutrition and hydration, you're actually doing that, you're practicing that on your long runs. And it's important not to take on gels or Lucozade Sport, not just when you're starting to feel tired and running out of energy, but start taking those relatively early in the race, because then you're constantly topping up your energy supplies before they move out. And that way you can move the wall back and back and back, and hopefully you'll miss it and it'll hit somebody else who hasn't listened. But I think Dave's got something to add here. Yeah. So over to you, Dave.
Yeah, if you're really worried about this wall, find some other walls to climb up. Don't just go on flat courses when you're doing your long runs. Find some significant hills, so you think, I've just done that hill there. The one at Chester is just a pimple. Why should I worry? So, Chris.
Okay, and another question that's recently come in is from Mark. And Mark's saying, are there any parts of the course that are good to get your own nutrition from someone? And in terms of easy accessible points. Well, that's a good point, Mark. And I think as we get closer to the race, certainly when the race information programme goes online and comes to you via the post, there's in there are spectator points, and there are 3 or 4 around the course that work really, really well. And it would be ideal then if you want to use a different energy source, a different gel or what have you, so you can have them passed to you around the course. So you're not just relying on hours which may not work for you. I think, again, I can't overstress the importance of taking on energy sources around the course. It's really, really important. And Amanda Spielberg, I can see, is frantically writing another question for us here. Dave and I are a little bit dinosaurs when it comes to technology, but Amanda's just tapping away there. So while she's doing that and feeding the question to us, I think here it is. Thank you. How big is Sandy Lane? Who's this Sandy Lane we're being asked about? Sandy Lane is towards the end of the course. It's when you come out of the countryside and come back into civilization and lots of support. The thing about Sandy Lane and Chester in general is that the Romans chose to build Chester because it was on top of a small hill. So when you think of Sandy Lane and you hit that hill, blame the Romans, not us. Sandy Lane comes in at around about the 24 mile point on the course. It is about 300 metres long. It's not long, but if you're tired, it can be really quite tough. But my secret and what works for me is to take hills and really shorten your stride and try and keep your effort level the same. It's really, really important to remember that. Try and practice some on some of your long runs if you can get some hills. They say it's 300 meters. It may feel like a mountain if you've overbaked it early on. But short strides and try and keep your effort level the same is the secret to try and conquer Sandy Lane Hill.
Yeah. Also, if you're shortening your stride, also drop your gaze so you're not looking up to the top of the hill. You should be looking at about a 45-degree angle. But the point I wanted to make is, from my recollection of doing that particular course, once you get to the top of Sandy Lane, it is actually gently downhill to the finish. Certainly that I got a new lease of life when I got to the top of that hill. So that is my firm belief, Chris, that it's downhill after that.
Yeah, I think it's really good, and you're certainly getting into the very final stage. And when you get onto the groves, the support along the River Dee is absolutely amazing. And then you're on the final straight into the race course, where we'll be there to wait to congratulate you and cheer you in. It's a truly fantastic finish that we've got for you there. Right, let's have a quick look, see what
did we have
got.
Something from a Deirdre from Doncaster?
We certainly did, and this is not Deirdre from Coronation Street, God rest her big glasses, but no, we have Deirdre from Doncaster. Dave, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, well, she wanted to know what should she do when she's not running, on the days when she's not running. Well, eat chips and drink beer, I say. Actually, seriously, getting proper rest and recovery is vital as the running. So on the rest days, you could go for a lactate busting bike ride. You could do some core strength at the gym, but nothing on the legs. Swimming or walking. Active rest. Over to you, Chris.
Okay, now I'm just looking online on the screen, and we've got a question from Trev Jones. He's looking forward to his first marathon, and he's travelling down from Newcastle. He's done his first 20-miler last week, so well done, Trev. You're well on track there. And I think, again, if you're hitting 20-milers now, making sure that you take the recovery weeks when your programme says, but if you can get a few 20-milers in, it will really, really help your confidence. So well done there. 140 is your PB half, so you're looking to go sub 4. And you've got 3 more 20-milers plus the Great North Run, then you're reducing the 3-mile taper. 2 days off each week recovery. Hopefully this will keep you injury free. If it's kept you injury free this far, Trevor, it certainly will do to the end. And you're doing it absolutely spot on there. And I think you're talking about this is going to be your first marathon. So being realistic with your target finish is absolutely the best thing to do. Once you gain experience and you do tweak your training next time, that's the time to aim to go a little bit faster. But brilliant, well done. I'm looking forward to seeing you on October the 6th. Okie dokie. We've got a question asking if the course is signed at the moment. Any chance of running part of it on the training runs? The course isn't signed yet. The course gets signed in terms of the advanced traffic closure on 2 weeks beforehand. But also in terms of running the race route, it's actually quite a lot of it out in the countryside. There are actually no pavements. So we certainly wouldn't advise that. If you want to see the course, there are places, certainly on the website, the race route is there, so you can familiarise yourself with it. And certainly if you want to do that and you're within striking distance, an idea might be to drive around the course. And that will certainly give you an idea of what you're looking for. And if you are local, again, training on parts of it. There are parts of it that are safe to run on. And if you want to hit the Sandy Lane Hill a couple of times, so it's not a total shock on race day, then certainly give that a go. You also ask if there's any chance of running parts of it on the training runs. Again, because of the amounts of traffic and because of lack of pavement, we can't do that on training runs. But a great idea, but unfortunately it doesn't work when we've got about 150, 200 people, when you're constantly crossing roads and we're trying to do drink stations as well. But thanks for the suggestion. Okay, Robert, can we start with whichever pacer you want. No advance notice. Certainly, Robert, I think no problem with that at all. The pace groups work in every quarter of an hour from 3 hours upwards to about 5.5 hours. And on the day, all you need to do is look at the signposted area and your pacer will be there. And you just introduce yourself, say hello and join his group and run with him. Let him take the pressure.
Yeah, there's the web page featuring the pace runners, which shows their photographs, their mug shots, so you can familiarise yourself with who you might be running with. They're all fantastic people, chosen for their consistent running ability and their personality, of course, and they'll do lots to support you on the day, just like they support you. People on the training runs. They're a great bunch of people. Over to you, Chris.
Okie dokie. Meg asked if the directions available for driving the course. I think certainly if you look at the course route, you can look at that and try and go from there. Right, what we're saying here, we've also got Fahmi Mohammed. Is the course certified by AIMS? I want to get sub 2:45 for Berlin Marathon in 2020. We are fully certified, and a lot of the big races come to us. Races like Boston, Berlin, we are okay for that. So we are a qualifying race for that. So it'd be fantastic. And going sub 2:45, wow, amazing, well done. Okay, Gaz here, and this is our last question for tonight. We'll let you get back to your lives after this one. Gaz says, never mind what gels, will there be beer at the finish? There'll be beer, champagne, lots of smiling faces, congratulations and hugs. It'll all be there at the finish for you, Gaz, we can assure you that.
I have a strong suspicion, Chris, that could be one of our pace runners, because we've already had a conversation about beer at the finish, and can I acquire a fridge for them in the pace runners HQ, which I haven't told you about yet, which I think is a fantastic idea.
I think that's amazing. And
beer, it's got to be good beer though.
Yeah, and as it's Gaz's suggestion, and he's being a little bit cheeky here, we think it can come off his pace runner fee of exactly £0.
Yeah. So that could
remember
be
our pace runners are volunteers.
Kaz, one of our pace runners in disguise.
Ah, Kaz in disguise.
And if it isn't, I do apologise.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea, and beers in the finish, yeah, great. Yeah. There's plenty of that, so no problem. Celebrate. It's certainly the time to celebrate. Forget your diet, forget your training. The only bit of advice after the finish is try and keep moving for a while. It will reduce the stiffness afterwards. But as all the best double acts go, I will say it's time for us to say goodbye. So it's a good night from him.
And good night from him.
Thanks everybody. Good luck with your training. Cheers.